And welcome back to This is Dunder. I got an episode you guys are not going to want to miss. I have Matthew Tapp, a.k.a. Barrows and Borderlands. And welcome to the show, man, making his debut. Although it's not the first time we've talked about you on the show. I had Harmony Ginger, I had Jay Letourneau, and they talked about DaveCon and Braunstein or however you gotta really lean into that S. So I'm excited to have you on, man. I got some questions for you. I'm sure everybody's wondering, how did this whole thing? What's your origin story? How did this whole thing get started for you with role playing games in particular?
Yeah. I started. I'm a little bit younger than some of the guys in the space. I'm 25, but I started playing with 5th edition. Yeah, exactly. I started with 5th edition though, back when I was in high school. I say we did. You know, one of my buddies bought the books, but we didn't read them for like 3 years.
With 5th edition, I don't think you need to read. I'm just kidding. Exactly. I'm just kidding. Crossface.
we started playing then, and we had time in like the lunchroom. We'd stay after in the chemistry room, and we just play games. You know, make stuff up. And we played that for quite a long time, and then went our separate ways for college. And then I eventually found older editions of the game, and I was like, "Oh, this is better." And or at least for my play style. And then I just kind of kept going back.
Okay, well, let me ask you about that, because I feel like a lot of us have that experience. I am older. I am 47. Ew, gross. But I never played D&D back in the day. My first nerd game was BattleTech, and we loved that. And then Star Wars, the West End games, D6 kind of fired BattleTech, and then Warhammer 40K fired Star Wars, and then college and girls and everything fired the whole lot of it. And I was like, it was just not a part of my life. Nerd games was just out. And then got back into it and started playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I found that if you wanted to play that, when I got back into it, it was 5e. Right?
Yeah.
And it was enjoyable, but there was just something missing about it. And as I started to learn about people that are still excited about the old ways, the original ways, I got excited too, but I found that it's hard to get your players to make the jump. Did you experience that?
I did. When we were first making the jump, Okay, so I sort of eased them into it. So I started with Pathfinder to sort of wean them off of the brand, because I was like, okay, well, here's a game. You know, you still make something really crazy powerful and do whatever. It's hyper complicated, but we'll get right into it. And you know, they liked that for a little while, and then it had the same sort of issues. Like, got to 5th level, and nothing was a challenge anymore. And you know, it just wasn't really suited for the style of games that we wanted to play. I grew up loving like Conan the Barbarian and stuff that like my dad's movies, you know, and I could never make that in D&D because it just didn't mesh well with it. It's like first level characters shooting weird spells out of their hands. They're floating around the battlefield, whatever else is going on.
Nobody's human. Everything's purple or horned or lizard faced.
Exactly. And, you know, so weaning them over to Pathfinder was fairly easy. And then I was like, hey, now that we've tried one game, let's just try a bunch of games, and we'll make them like little one-shot sessions. You know, we eventually did like a mothership session, and they loved that.
I'm playing in a mothership game right now. Scudder for Mike is killing it. It's pretty fun, I gotta say.
It is a fun game. I love it. And I think the one that really caught them, though, where they were like, okay, this is really good. We played Hyperborea.
Okay.
And they were
I have not played that one, but I've heard good things.
It's pretty good. I put out a lot of comments to Jeffrey about his game, and I'm just, every time somebody asks me, I say, well, if I'm not playing Barrows and Borderlands now, I'm playing Hyperborea, because that's probably my favorite rewrite of AD&D, if there was one. But
so what is it about Hyperborea that stood out to you as you were doing these one shots and you tried that one?
So one of the things was everyone's a human at the base. So it's like, okay, that shows you right off the bat that you guys are mankind versus the evil sorcerers and monsters and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I feel like that is so ironically alien to a lot of D&D players.
It
I
really
remember
is.
trying to get my players into Curse of Strahd, and I was like, all right, you're going to be going to this otherworldly place, and they do not like outsiders. And one of them's like, well, I'm going to be a turtle. And the other one's, I'm going to be a dragonborn. And the other one was like, I'm going to be an Aarakocra. And I'm like, I'm just picturing the animal crackers walking into it, just kind of. And I don't know if I was just old fashioned and weird because they're like, no, it's Star Wars. You're in the Mos Eisley Cantina here. But like, there was just, it was not satisfying to me. Is that what you were feeling?
It really is.
When you brought this game out, is it all humans? Were they like, oh, boring humans, human fighters? How boring?
At first they were, and then I was like, y'all just give it a shot. I said, there's a ray gun in this game, and they were like, okay, maybe we'll try it out. And then, we played a few sessions of it, and they went, wow, combat lasted 15 minutes. This is great. We don't have to have an entire session for combat encounters. And that was really what drew them in. They were like, we can just play more. And, it's like you talk about Curse of Strahd. I can't tell you how many times we tried to play that adventure back in high school. And the real Curse of Strahd is that we could just never finish it because we all just lost steam. It was such a huge adventure. And then I do think that of the 5th edition adventures that they released, that's probably the better one. But
they say it's the most sandboxy, right? But the thing is you cannot start it off without a railroad. It's like, no, this fog is just going to make you go where I want you to.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you want to go into the fog. You come out of the fog right back where I said you were supposed to go.
Exactly. Well, like when we were in high school, we were trying to do stuff like political play, or we would try the characters would want to like make an army and go fight something. And the only books I had in high school were the 5th edition books, and I was like, well, I don't know what to do. We're gonna roll some dice. But and then you get games like original Dungeons and Dragons, and then I'm like, okay, well, look, I gotta get this other thing called Chainmail. And next thing you know is, okay, now we play war games all the time. And now they really can have that feeling of, okay, my character can go build an army, or I can build a castle, and the game's sort of meant for it. Hyperborea is pretty good for that too. If you're not into wargaming, they've got the it's kind of like the BECME war calculator.
Okay.
But
you just do a bunch of math and then you spit out a victory.
Yeah, but I like to war game, so we
all right, let me catch up on the chat here. Commodore Sven says Tomb's Cycle is the best encapsulation of how to run horror I've ever read. Is that in Hyperborea? I'm not sure what Tomb Cycle is.
I do not know.
Tomb Cycle sounds like a Nicolas Cage movie.
I've heard of it. I'll put it on my notes and look it up later.
Maybe it's something in Mothership. Not sure.
Possibly. Oh yes, actually it is. It's the I've got my Mothership books right here.
All right. While you're capturing that, Czar Bombadil says, literally no one has ever said anything about 5e that makes me go, man, I should give 5e a try. I think the biggest thing for 5e is just that your players want to play it.
Yeah, because they can make something crazy powerful, and they can do Mos Eisley Cantina, like you said.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get it. You tell somebody, hey, you can be this super powerful, like, dragon character or whatever. It's like, oh, cool. But
yeah, do you want to breathe fire, or do you want to be Kevin?
Exactly. Do you want to be this little dude with a spear and hope for the best?
Yeah. But Mugen the dog says, we love human fighters, LMAO.
I love human fighters too. And with our campaign, a lot of the times, well, I guess we'll probably get into the campaign stuff here in a minute. Yes, the Tomb Cycle Mothership. So
okay.
It's how to tell horror for like one shot.
Is that in the player guide, or is that in the DM?
It is in the Warden's operational.
Okay. No, I haven't read that yet. I'm still just being a player.
But yeah, and Mothership's a really good, like, if I am going to do a game where it's just like, hey, we're getting together for a one-shot horror session, like we're just trying to play the Aliens movies, that's one of my favorites for that. Either that or Classic Traveler's pretty good. But
oh yeah,
I've got my Traveler books around here somewhere. But
I feel like Mothership really is more dialed in on the session play, though. I haven't tried Mothership doing like a Traveler campaign where it's like continuous going to going, but It feels like episodic stuff to me.
Yeah, and Mothership is like you don't have to know anything about the game, and you can start playing in 5 minutes. So, yeah, hand somebody some D10s and just get into it.
Malachi says, "I want to be Meepo. If you know, you know." So, well, that's from the Sunless Citadel, and every time I've tried to do anything with Meepo, he dies. Usually, the players kill him immediately. They hear a noise coming from a rolled up carpet, and they just stick it. But if they let him survive, then the dragon freezes him. Usually, when he comes across them.
Usually my players kidnap Meepo, and he becomes the party's pet for a while. But you know,
he was like the original Jar Jar Binks, I think.
Yes.
Sorry, says Meepo is the demiurge.
Yes.
Oh,
Make
man.
him the evil one.
Okay, sorry. I got us off track. So you've been trying a bunch of different stuff with your guys, and you're giving them a taste for the old stuff. You're doing chainmail battles with them, which I feel like not a whole lot of guys that try OD&D go full chainmail.
It's
okay. Let me qualify that. I shouldn't say that. I feel like a lot of times I have a trauma response to the ankle biters. You know, like if you look in OD&D, it tells you, okay, get the outdoor survival board game and just use that board. It tells you chainmail is required, but if you so much as dared, you got the original.
I listened to the book, so
we got a guy who reads the book, ladies and gentlemen. If you listen to the haters on X, they'll say chainmail's not required. Nobody ever used chainmail. That's not what it's for. And then you got guys like Alchemic Raker that are like, let me blow your mind with how awesome chainmail is.
I'm sure, like, I've played it both ways, and you know, I've had fun with both. But because our group likes to play the large scale game, and our players like to go and get armies together, it just sort of works. It's an easy transition. It's like we already know the system, so and you know, we've played like AD&D and stuff, and they like that combat too. It's weird because I'm blessed with really good players that are fine trying out multiple different combat systems and different ways to play the game, even if they're like the same but adjacent to each other, you know. But I have some of my players
were they like that from the get-go, or did you have to cultivate that in them?
I had to cultivate it, you know. Like I had one or two that were like, yeah, let's try anything, and then I had some that I mean, honestly, I just got one guy for 5 years. I've been trying to get him to play something other than 5th edition. And I convinced him to play Barrows and Borderlands once, and he goes, okay, I guess this is fun, you know. But you can eventually get them to move over. It's not impossible. It's just hard. It makes it really easy when you start off by just saying, hey, this will just be a one shot, you know, just give me one day to play a game. But you know, my players that are also board gamers are much easier to convince to try different things out. So, but you know, in our main campaign, we use a few systems already. So obviously we're using Barrows and Borderlands right now for our just core mechanics. But some of the players that like a bit more of an advanced game, we use AD&D, and then I'll take some of the things from my Barrows and Borderlands book and work it in so they can still join a party with the other guys. And then some of my players aren't really tabletop gamers, so I'll use like a 2d6 system, like with the Barons of Braunstein, the old house games. So you know, they're not concerned with anything other than they want to just go around with their character and hit something. So I'll just say, okay, two six-sided dice, and we'll just play like that for a little. It just depends on who's at my table that day. I have 30 players, so that's
a big group, right?
Yeah.
And you've got some other interesting. You've got multiple DMs, right?
Yeah, multiple DMs. I'm up to 4 now. We just had one guy.
Is it a ratio of 4 to 30, or do they kind of split off and each DM takes their own kind of crew with them?
Well, we usually don't run games at the same time as each other. The way it usually works at our table is we only have one scheduled game, and that is our monthly open table game at the local game store. And we get 10 to 20 people show up to it. and that's at the Green Dragon over here in Charleston.
Nice.
But they opened in 1975 too, so it's real easy for me to talk to them about the old games.
Cool.
But when we're not at the open table, we'll run our games online, or somebody will just come over to my house, and our game is always on. So it's kind of who wants to referee real quick, or am I grabbing a character sheet, or am I running a game? And we use 1-to-1 time. This can make all the Bro SR people happy. But
right on, man. Right on. Well, that's okay. Let's go there. I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay.
Let's go screen to share it. And so this was the first. Well, I can't say the first. I'm not sure when you crossed my radar and when we became aware of each other, but you had this post, player ran factions. How do y'all feel about NPC classes from Dragon Magazine? And you said, personally, I let my players use them occasionally, converting for Barrows and Borderlands, of course. And so it's a pretty interesting thread. You guys should read it. How did your players, deal with that? And my question, as someone who's been doing this for kind of like 4 years now, I was like, where did the 1-to-1 time stuff come from you? Do you consider yourself part of the Bro SR? Were you aware of the Bro SR? Did you know who Jeffro was? That kind of thing.
I don't feel right saying I am yet, because I was telling you before the show started that I had only maybe about a month ago heard about who Jeffro was. And
okay.
It was I had seen you guys posting about. I knew who the Bro SR was,
okay,
and I had seen some blogs in the past. But whenever I saw y'all doing like the hashtag Jeffro and stuff like that,
thank you, Jeffro.
Yeah, that one. And I was talking to one of my friends. I was like, "Hey, who is this guy?" So I don't sound stupid when I'm talking to them about it. I read some of his blogs afterwards, and I was like, "Yeah, that's about what we do." I mean, our table is a little all over the place because we try to stay close to 1-to-1 time, but that's mainly because with our 30 players and each of them having 6, sometimes more characters, it makes tracking very easy. We just keep a calendar and say, okay, y'all traveled here, you did that.
Wait a minute, hold on, time out. You are telling me that when you have 30 players, 1-to-1 time makes the game easier? I have been reliably told that nobody ever plays that way. I've been reliably told that it just flat out doesn't work, and that we've always been playing that way, but we gave it up because it doesn't work. You're telling me 1-to-1 time actually might be possibly a load-bearing rule, and when it got removed from the way that we were playing, it fundamentally changed the way we understand the game. Is that what Matthew Tapp is telling me in this moment?
It makes, I can at least tell you that it makes our table easier, and I at least have players that do like it. I can't speak for everybody's table.
Okay, but, this is how I know that you're not in the Bro SR yet, is because you are being political.
I didn't undeniably
qualifying it. Like, for me, if you were a bro, you would like, no, not only is this the best way to do it, this is the only real D&D, and if you're not doing it that way, you need to get good scrub.
Well,
it's giving you a hard time.
When we're playing at our table, like I said, we try to keep pretty close to it. There have been a couple times where we do. So occasionally we have other referees that are like, man, I just really want to run this like quick dungeon, and I don't really care who shows up. It's going to be a one shot. And then we'll have players be like, oh, well, we want to bring our character into it. So when we're doing those kind of game nights, we'll say this one's outside of time. This is your characters. This is like a Fawford and Grey Mouser story,
Yeah.
And we'll kind of not run that one 1-to-1 because it's a one shot, even though it's set in the same world. We just kind of count it as outside what's going on. Okay. Or like Marvel's What If comics, a little bit like that. But as far as the core campaign, like I said, we track it with a calendar. I've had plenty of times where I said, no, you can't bring that character to the table today. They've been traveling for 2 weeks. They're stuck. So
you use time jail.
Yeah.
Now that's the thing is, okay, how did you come up with 1-to-1 time? Where did you discover this?
So I didn't create it in my head out of nowhere. I had always kind of wanted there to be like some in-game calendar, but I didn't think that was like a thing that people actually did. I think it was a mixture of reading blogs online throughout college and being like, that would be so much fun to play, but I'll never get the players for that. And then I think I saw like the Secrets of Blackmore documentary, and I was like, okay, let me look more into this. And a couple Google searches later, I'm like, okay, so people do play like this, so let's try it, and it worked. So
right on, man. And now I will say, I mean, there's going to be people watching this that when you say I didn't know who Jeffro was, they're probably rolling their eyes, right?
Yeah.
But let me just play devil's advocate with them for just a second, because Jeffro, he's been out of the scene since February. And before that, he did have his X account locked. So if he wasn't already following you or you following him, it was going to be hard for him to come across your radar. Do you feel like you have a good idea who he is now, or should we do a little?
Yeah, now I know who he. And you know what probably happened is I probably read some of his blogs whenever I was prepping my games before, and just never caught the author of the blog down at the bottom or whatever. And I am not very active until recently when I'm trying to make my own game. I haven't been really active on social media for a while.
It's probably better for your mental health not to be.
Well, I'm used to working 12-hour days, so I don't really. I just never had time for it. And my day job is a videographer, so we'll go out and film like operas and TV shows and stuff like that. But now I've sort of shifted a little bit to now I'm doing much less videography and much more game design. But
right on. I'm sorry, Patty dropped a banger. He says, the only thing that I'm hearing right now is that the only way to use Broasar ideas and using them without being shunned by the crowd is to be Ginger.
Hey, if it works, it works. You get 5 of us in a room. And,
I do feel like we've got a high percentage of Gingers. High IQ players and Gingers. I don't know if that's correlation or causation, but
maybe that's why I said hey to Harmony at the convention. I'm like, okay, one of us, she'll get it.
Do you have to speak out loud when you see each other, or can you just communicate telepathically?
We have secret hand signs,
Okay.
Yeah. You actually, you have to have a soul to have psionics.
That's right. Oh man, that's good stuff.
She did make me play Cosmic Encounters though, and
she did that to me too. So
I after playing it with her though, I had to get my own copy of it. So
that looks like another old school box. That does not look like the one I have.
It's the 77 box.
Rock on. That's the year I was born, bro. Me and that box are the same.
There you go.
Cool. So sounds like. I mean, it sounds like you've had an amazing time with this stuff. You're trying the 1-to-1 time, and players are trying it, and like 30 players in your campaign. That is no mean feat, my friend. Like,
no,
the joke about 5e conventional play is that you get six sessions, and then everyone's too busy to get together.
I take 20 max at a table at a time. So, any more than that,
this is at a gaming store.
Yes.
Like I feel like my local gaming store, if I wanted to meet people that were actually in Antifa, that would be the best way to do it, is to play D&D with them. But it would just be 5th edition, and nobody would be allowed to be male or human or able-bodied.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean our game store is great down here. Everybody that comes in there is just good people. I mean, cool. I'm also in Charleston, South Carolina, so when we're playing our games over there too, you'll see older guys come in and they're like, hey, that looks familiar, and then they'll come sit down. But our age range for majority of the players are under 25. Some of them are in high school that come to the game. We only have a couple players that are older than 40 at our table, and I'd say about half of them have never played a role-playing game before. Wow. They were all Magic the Gathering players in the shop, or they'd never been in the shop, and I convinced them to show up one day. So it was very easy for me to get those players.
It was easy to get them, but you have kept them.
Yes, yeah.
Worth pointing out.
They keep coming back for some reason.
They enjoy 1-to-1 time. They enjoy player-run patrons and NPCs.
Yeah, and I mean, We host a few different games at the store too. So every once in a while, I will host games that are not part of our normal campaign, just to give people a taste of the history. So like Empire of the Petal Throne, or
that is a deep cut.
that was pretty fun. Then we've got a couple war games we run, like Siege of Bodenberg type stuff, and I'll just set up the table and be like, "Here's
is World of Worth still in here? Is he still in the chat?" Siege of Bodenberg, that's his jam.
Yeah, we had our own little what do we call it, the Siege of Sturmwald, and none of the players knew what they were showing up to. We had a couple guys that were just in the shop, and I was like, here's a sheet of paper and what you need to know, just come join. And the game store, at least the one here, has been pretty awesome. They were actually the first store that I've had my game in as well.
Cool.
But
all right, so let's talk about that. So you're playing 5e. You start branching out, trying other stuff. You're reading the blogs. You watch Secrets of Blackmoor. How was that when you learned about Braunstein's? Was Secret of Blackmoor?
Yeah, it was. Secrets of Blackmoor, I think, was the first time either that or the I think Questing Beast did a video on it once.
Okay.
I was trying to look for reviews, and I'm like, what is this thing? And from there, I just was like, man, I got to go to like a convention and play this thing, which I did.
Yeah.
But a lot of fun. And then I think I'm gearing up to play with Jay later this.
That's right.
I think later this week. I don't know when.
He threw out the challenge on my channel. It was like, I was such a moment. I clipped it and released it as a short. It was hilarious. But so you met Jay, you met Harmony at DaveCon. You got to play with them in original, authentic, trademark Braunstein. How did that go? And did it live up to the hype from watching the show, the Secrets of Blackmoor?
Yeah, it did. I mean, I when I showed up, obviously I was a little bit nervous. I mean, I get about that many players, but I was like, man, I don't know any of these people. And it was my first convention as well. And I was there trying to convince people that they needed to fork over money to buy my game. So I was like, okay, what am I signing up for here? And I think my fiance was originally going to play, and then she was like, I'm not going in there with 27 people. I was like, okay. But
the social anxiety kicks in, especially when you know you're all going to be betraying each other.
Yeah. Speaking of betraying each other, I got to play as the mayor in the game, and I know Harmony and Jay were talking about that last time. It took me all of 5 minutes to decide that I was going to assassinate half the town. So that's about how long it took me. Well, it was
I've been told that I'm somewhat bloodthirsty myself in the old Steam game. I feel like mine was justified, but you just decided to slaughter half the town. Okay.
I wasn't expecting to at first, but it was after I think 5 people tried to talk to me as the mayor at once that I went, okay, there's too many. How can I solve all these problems at once? Well, if the problems aren't there, then there's nothing to solve. So
you were like doing a backwards Macrease. You were like, I don't want to be king. I'm going to go back to conqueror, and then maybe barbarian.
Wesley told me that I needed to make sure that the students didn't get banned from the town. And it did not say anything about them being alive. It didn't say anything about that. And it also, everyone needed to like me. So I made sure I got everybody to sign a document saying they're voting for me. The people that didn't sign that document were on my hit list. I had planned an elaborate ruse for the students to all get beer down at the tavern, and I was going to stage the sergeant at arms saying that he got his gun stolen from him, and in which case we had to do what we had to do against these rebels.
Right on, man. You can't just let that go unanswered.
Exactly.
Mugen the dog says, I have to go back to work. Tell Matt I said I love him and that he can wield the witch's cauldron.
All right. Yeah, and Mugen is one of my players. So
cool. Thanks for being with us, Mugen.
It's funny enough, he is he's a security guard, and he is the only one that is not beholden to the 1-to-1 time, because he can only join over the phone every once in a while.
Okay.
So we had all 30 of the players agree. They were like, when he shows up with his character Sagar, the Putrid Apostle, that they're just kind of summoning him like it's a Dark Souls video game.
Okay.
And so he's not actually a character. We're just summoning him as part of a ritual. And then, pretty much every time he dies, we just knock him down a level so that he can show up next time to play. Because we never know when he's going to get to play. But and
I think that's one of the benefits of doing the Type 3. There's 3. When you hear me talk about Type 1, Type 2, Type 3, there's those are the 3 that Jeffro laid out in Browser. The types of ways of using Braunstein mechanics in your ongoing campaign. One of the benefits of the 3rd type is that if you have someone that is interested in the world and wants to play but can't always be there, you can give them a high level PC and just say, or NPC, you can make them a patron and say, all right, you just give me like weekly instructions of what you want to do. You can read the session reports online and then tell me what you want to do to try and court or destroy the party. Right.
Hey, I mean, if it works, it works. So far it's been fun because all the players have come up with reasonings for his character just showing up, and they're like, oh, he's a lost knight that's been caught out of time, and so every time he dies, it's just him. It's just a previous version of him showing up. That's why it's at lower level, and so he's kind of. They've all been creating lore for this character, all just because he can't show up to the session, which is why he's got to go right now because he's back at work. Yeah. But we have
Henry says he's like a surprise boon we get every now and then.
Yep, exactly. They occasionally get an extra fighting man. In our Barrows and Borderlands game, we threw a magic item in there, which is the armor of Sagar, and it just lets you spawn a little fighting man character to help you fight.
That's pretty cool. Well, see, I love that because, you got so many players, but you can still find ways to make it fun for people to play when and how they can. And to me, that is one of the joys of one-to-one time, is that there's room for the downtime stuff, and that it's compared to the 5e thing where everybody needs to be there and we pause in the middle of it. Someone not showing up wrecks everything. It just you've either got a weekend at Bernie's zombie slog them through the adventure following everyone. Or you got to do some kind of sleight of hand. Oh, he teleported away, and this other character that could join tonight teleports in his place. It must be karma. It's too much on the DM. So do you guys find that once you instituted one-to-one time, you started having more sorties where they would go out, get some loot, and come back to town by the end of the adventure?
Oh, yeah. We pretty much always end an adventure back in town. If something comes up and one of the referees has to leave, or like multiple people have to leave, we do like a little roll just because we know how long it would take them to get back. So we do like a little roll to see if they lose any loot on their way back or anything.
Oh yeah, cool.
And usually though, they're able to make it back. Usually just outside of most of my dungeons, there's a somewhere for them to have a settlement or a camp or somewhere they can stay for an extended period of time within 30 miles, somewhere that they can get to.
But it's fun to just put that on them. Just let them know, hey, you guys are going to have to make some plans. You're going to have to figure some of this out. John Branton says, it's the worst feeling when someone says they will show up and they don't, and then he does the sad eyes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that still sometimes happens as you get the guy that's like, couple hours before he's like, all right, I'll be right there. So we wait like an extra 30 minutes for him and he still doesn't show up. And it's like, I think that'll happen regardless.
John had a question earlier that I missed. I'm going to throw it up here now. Question for Matt. What is more enjoyable for you when running a session of B&B versus any other title?
More enjoyable is an odd question because we have fun with a lot of different games, but Barrows and Borderlands is not traditional medieval fantasy. So if we were doing traditional medieval fantasy, I would probably pick original D&D any day. Either that or AD&D if my players are good enough for it. Barrows and Borderlands is flintlock and black powder, but then there's also weird science going on, alien spaceships and stuff like that. So it's sort of the wackier setting. And original D&D, that seemed to be kind of the point of it, was to go and make it your own for your own system.
Play with all the toys.
Yeah. Right? AD&D is like, here's a full game. But OD&D was like, here's a game and you can tweak it at your own table. So I made a lot of tweaks. Like we have chainmail casting in Barrows and Borderlands.
Okay.
Which I know that'll make
that for people that haven't been
Yeah.
up on chainmail. What would you say is the difference between standard and chainmail versions of Magic?
So chainmail Magic is kind of a roll to cast system. It's 2d6, and you have sort of like a varied result of what might happen. So in our game, instead of it just being immediate magic, delayed around, or it just doesn't happen, we have immediate, delayed around, or a miscast. And my miscast table is pretty harsh. I know like DCC has a miscast table, but I just was like, I'm not going to give unlimited casting without there being like a horrifying downside to it. So, my miscast table is like all your bones disappear, or you were never born. Actually, what it says specifically is one of them. Yeah, we've got one that says the caster's insides become outsides. And but then some of them aren't so bad. You got like a 25% chance that it's not too bad. But most of the time it's pretty.
You're just hoping that like your stomach and your liver absorb the impact of your brain hitting the ground when all your bones go away.
Yeah, and in our game too, we have radiation. So we took some stuff from like Metamorphosis Alpha.
Okay.
So you can get like mutated and such. So some of the miscasts are like you get like 6 more arms than you needed, and they're useless, or they're violent towards you. Just really,
or they just never stop patting you on the back. You're like, okay, guys, okay.
Oh, I see. Czar Bombadil brought up the jousting table is the dueling table. That was one of the earliest things I had made. I made that a few years ago, and I was just like, oh, this would make a fun little mini game. But I had somebody else recently. He laid it into me a little hard on the review, and then I talked with him over the phone, and he was like, okay, never mind, I get it. And I was like, thanks.
Can you
add something to the review? Yeah, add something to
right on.
But that was one of the things he brought up was the dueling matrix. And I was like, the only reason it's in there is because it happened to us a few times, and the players thought it was fun to have like a rock, paper, scissors moment. And that's kind of how the dueling matrix is.
Yeah. Okay.
Lined up for the chainmail.
So you're using the person's body as the shield, if you will.
Right.
Got
exactly.
it. Cool.
I'm also in a HEMA fencing group, so we thought that was kind of a fun little thing to add in. A lot of the HEMA players, though, they like a much more advanced system. Like even more than the 8. Like I'm sure they'd love GURPS, but I'm never going to show that to them. So they just, I don't want to do that to myself.
Yeah, or let them. You might want to let them get a whiff of Axe. I don't know if you've played Adventure Conquer King system, but
I do like Axe. I use some of that stuff in my own campaign at home. So like their merchant stuff and the they've got really good tools in there to do campaign
world building and campaign building tools and stuff. Yeah, I just got my Poplar slipcase, so I'm excited to get.
I know. I'm jealous. Oh
man, it's sitting right over here. I don't want to. Well, you showed off some stuff.
Yeah, I showed off a bunch of stuff. Yeah, you got a nice box set like that. You got to show it off.
Oh, look at this! Look at it. It's heavy. It smells good.
I was surprised at how many pages that thing was. That was a hefty manual. It's like 500 or something in the first book, or 480, something like that.
So here is the revised rule book. Look at that sucker. That's 548 pages in, and that's not even when we get to the monster manual and the judge's journal.
Oh yeah, dude. The judge's journal is where I spend a lot of my time. So
yeah, 484 pages on the judge's journal. So yeah, I haven't actually got into it yet. I was planning on just no-lifing it, like telling all my friends and family to leave me alone. But there was a family camping weekend, and my daughter just went on a missions trip, and like there was stuff I had to be here for. But soon I'm just gonna go hermit mode and come out having mastered X.
I think I'm going to go hermit mode sometimes and read through some of the games I haven't been able to yet. And then my players don't let me. So
right on. Okay. So we've talked about your gaming.
Yeah.
When did it turn from I like taking part in these and running these to I want to not just make my own system, but I want to put my shingle out and try and make a business of this? Walk me through that decision.
Well, I'm never satisfied. So when we were playing our games, there's never a moment.
Does your fiance know this? Like,
oh yeah, in gaming, never satisfied.
Okay, I was gonna say that sounds like a red flag, man.
No, the games that we play, I always wind up modifying something, unless the point is what we're doing. Like I said, if you're doing medieval fantasy, I'm just gonna pick up AD&D or Axe.
Yeah.
But when we were running our game, I was making these little house rules at our table. I was modifying stuff. I was like, well, let's try it out. Especially with us having new players, it gets them used to, hey, the game's going to change a bunch, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. So they might show up one week and it's like, hey, here's a new character sheet that's got some new stuff on it. And then one thing led to another, and I was like, okay, this is good. We're going to run this system. And then the players are like, you're going to publish this thing, right? And I'm like, well, no, it's just for you guys. And they were like, no, you've got to publish it. And I'm like, you know how much work goes into that? Like, I'm going to have to make it look good. And then I'm going to have to, do some sort of box set with it. And they were like,
you are your first audience and you need to be satisfied with it.
Exactly. And so one thing led to another, and I spent all my savings money making it happen. So, but then here we are with the box set of the game.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah, the shrink wrapping was a good idea from the game store owner over here at the Green Dragon. He was like, you got to do it. I was like, okay, there's something else I got to buy. But
and is the Green Dragon selling it? Is it on the shelves there?
Yes, it's on the shelves there. There's some copies going to Tabletop. Let me double check, make sure I'm not lying. Tabletop Game and Hobby in Overland Park, Kansas is about to have some copies of it. And it's available at my website, barrowsandborderlands.com.
Nice.
Not the ampersand, the A&D.
Yeah, let me chuck it up on the I'll throw that in the I'll throw that in the comments too, because I don't know if you can put links in there, but I certainly can. So
I'm definitely not one of the ones that says this is my end all be all D&D killer game. No, this is if you want your game to have weirdness in it, this adds a little bit. And one or two of the, like, if you just want to keep playing AD&D, you can just steal a couple magic items, or you can steal some, like, the radiation mechanics, stuff like that. So it's very modular.
Like the best products are the ones that like come out of that, like thoroughly play tested by your players, and they're like, you should make this a game, and it's like, oh, okay, not something that someone just sitting by themselves thinking, man, I want to make some money off of gamers, I'm going to come up with something.
I've seen a few like that. I mean, that was probably the only reason I was able to write it, because I was like, well, I've already got all the notes because we're using an our system, and even if it doesn't sell anything, I'll at least have a really nice set to run our games with. And it's obviously not going to be for everybody. I know some people that don't really like science fiction mixed in with their fantasy, but that's kind of how
they don't want to get chocolate into peanut butter.
Exactly. But I mean, a lot of the things that D&D was based on mixed science and fantasy as well.
Oh yeah.
So
Expedition to the Borderlands and
or Barrier Peaks.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. I've been teaching all day, guys. I did a new employee orientation and I've been teaching software, so like I totally just mixed my brain there. But yeah, Expedition to the Barrier Peaks had the laser guns. I can see Victor Gorchev, the scrying Dutchman, nodding when you said the game has guns in it, and then I'm not sure what his face did when you said black powder. Why did you settle on muskets when you could have had AK-47s?
Yeah, because I had this idea in my head of Solomon Kane fighting Conan on the side of a UFO. And
oh my gosh.
So
that needs to go on a van.
yeah, for real. Oh, and a dragon flying in the background might as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted our game to be a little wacky, zany and stuff, but not so gonzo that you couldn't relate to it. Like we have nations in the world, and the players are all into the politics of it. Some of them are like repping their teams or whatever.
Oh yeah,
mad at the other player characters for liking
Factions.
one of the nations. And a lot of my favorite movies too. I keep a lot of the game world sort of like Fire and Icy. So
okay,
you've got the sorcerer guys, and then you've got the pseudo Roman Empire with guns, and we kind of go with that. And then I like Sinbad, so we've got sort of your pseudo Arabian place, not real Arabian inspired, but like 1950s movies inspired.
Yeah, the goofy, campy pulp.
Exactly. But
rock on, man!
It's a lot of fun. And we've got. Or go ahead.
I was just gonna say, has turning this into a product and trying to sell it has that taken some of the joy of it out of it for you? Is like going from being a reader to trying being a writer, and then you like peek behind the curtain and you see how the sausage made, and then like the magic is gone, or has it been mutually reinforcing to the rest of your hobby?
It's been pretty good. This is the first time I could probably say that I know all the rules to a game.
Yeah.
So, because normally
that's the secret. You got to make them.
Right. I know like 3 people who have read every word of the 1E Dungeon Master's Guide, and
Alchemic Raker read it 3 times.
That's crazy. And I'm sure he loves it. But I mean, that part, I mean, obviously going through and being like, oh, I forgot to mention how to, roll dice, or like what I mean when I say D20. I'm like, so, some of that stuff was like, okay,
boilerplate.
Yeah. But, once we got through that, I think it just made our games better. I mean, a lot of the players too have put in input to the game. Not all of it has been listened to, but
sometimes they know where the red flags are, even if they're not the ones that know how to solve it. So you always have to listen to them, but you don't always have to do what they say to fix the whatever, right?
Exactly.
And they're probably just trying to get extra XP and cool magic items out of you.
Well, I mean, already right now, now that they have a system that they want to tie it to, because they're all into it, but we've got 3 of the players are writing adventures to publish in this setting.
Wow. So how do you feel about that then? Let me ask that question, because some people, they make a system and like they're very concerned about the type of stuff that supports it. They're like I'm thinking of Blackwall, DM Blackwall. He's got a singular vision for what his game is. And that game is Horde Wars, Advanced Horde Wars, and upcoming Dropship. And so he's like, I'm willing to work with people, but I want final right of refusal. If they're gonna like do something that I can't get behind and I don't want to poison the brand, I'm not gonna let it. And then you got people that are like, here's my open license. Everybody have fun with the system. Feel free to, use my logo or whatever. Maybe nobody says use my logo or whatever, but how do you feel about other people developing for Barrows and Borderlands in specific? Like, does it have to come from your group?
No. I mean, if you're willing to write it up and you don't need me to help you with layout design, just put made for B&B or something on it, or it's up to you. If you like one of the mechanics you want in your game, I mean that's kind of what we all do. It's all D&D based at its core.
Well, you can't copyright mechanics, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but like the terminologies or something.
Yeah.
No big deal. And then like with my players, at least the ones that are making adventures, we just have a little deal worked out, because they're going to write it, but they're probably going to hand it to me on a notebook, and I'm going to go in and layout design it and put art in it and whatever. So
you're like a publisher and they're like your writing team, right?
yeah. But they, like if it's their adventure, they're going to get a bigger chunk out of it. I'm just going to help them put it out there and get the word out. And then we've got like supplements that make it even more wackier and zanier. We're working on one right now, Dark Star Violet, that's really going to be able to put Solomon Kane on that UFO. So
a little bit of that's really sweet.
Yeah, I told my players, I was like, well, I don't want to use Traveler when y'all go to space because the space works different here. So I guess I'm going to have to write another little supplement to add on so we can have more Flash Gordon than Alien.
Right on, man. All right. So if people are starting to get interested in this game and get excited, how can they support you? How can they follow you? Where can they get their hands on this game?
Yeah. If you guys follow me on X, I'm at, what is my handle again?
Let me throw it up here on the banner.
Yeah. Space Cowboy VFX. And then my website that was thrown in the comments there was barrowsandborderlands.com. That's where you can pick up a copy of the game. I'm on Drive-Thru RPG as well, but you know, it's always nicer when you get it from the website because then I don't have to throw any money towards Drive-Thru.
That's
not
right.
that I don't like them, but you know what I mean.
They do take their cut, don't they?
Yeah, and they I don't have print on demand set up for the box sets because all the box sets are made by hand. So
okay,
they're print on demand, but from me. So we're on our second printing of the box sets right now. I print all the books here, cut them, staple them. I went full troll mode and deep dived into how the original D&D books were made, so it should have a similar look and feel to it.
Wow.
Same kind of paper that they used. They do not make that paper in the parchment color anymore. Unless somebody in the chat can tell me where I can get it, but so
for the third printing, perhaps.
Exactly. But yeah, they've got the same. I don't know if we can see it on there. The texture.
The same grain, the same hand feel.
And same paper weight for the interior and all that. And then the boxes are slightly taller than the OD&D wood grain box, and that's so that you could fit all the supplements I'm going to write in there.
Right on, man. So you're planning for the future. Let me jump to that website. Let's take a look at it together. I really like the saturated choice on the cover there.
Oh yeah.
So we got Barrows and Borderlands. We got this horse, and so you can get the PDFs, you can get physical, you can get the box set. And then you've got some freebies on here too. I grabbed this beholder looking thing. I don't know if it's called a beholder or if it's called something else.
I think Eye of Fear. I think
the Eye of Fear. I do kind of like the thickness of the lips on this thing. It's almost got a feminine quality.
Oh yeah, dude. That was always the joke when we saw the old school art. It's like, man, we love it so much, and it's funny how much art can do for a system. Yeah, it's like the mechanics might be all right, but the art in the book's so cool, it's easy to get your players to play it.
Mm-hmm.
But
so they can get character sheets and they can get session notes. So tell me about
and those are printable. Yeah. But the session notes are what I use at my table to keep track of our campaign.
Okay.
So they're double-sided, but they print out like this. I think I've got a PDF version. If I can do this whole presenting thing.
Sorry, I'm screwing up. Look. I just kicked us both off stage. Sorry about that. I was trying to just have it be you instead of me, and it kicked you off.
I'm gonna try the whole PDF presenting thing.
All right. Let's see if so get it up there, and then I'll
that right there. But while it's loading up, and there is. There you go. So it's got room for you to write the player, the character, hit dice, armor class, all the stats. And then you can track how many days you've had in game, how much XP they've gotten, and what treasures they might have gotten. And then the little combat tracker down there, I kind of flip-flop between how I track combat in my own table. Once I get to about 11 people, I kind of stop going, okay, raise your hand if you're doing stationary melee. At that point, I just sort of point around the table. I'm like, okay, tell me what you're doing, tell me what you're doing, tell me what you're doing. But I still use that to tally mark track every round.
Cool.
And it keeps the game moving pretty fast. And then
do
the rest
you
of it,
individual initiative or initiative by side in your game?
By side. So initiative by side, but I have the a little bit like how Hyperborea does with magic happening, or sorry, melee happening before magic. But obviously, if you're at your own table, you can do initiative many different ways. It's really up to y'all. But I like side-based initiative. It keeps the table moving fast.
Yeah.
And the players aren't waiting for their turn or anything like that.
I find it also kind of corrals them into working with each other.
Yeah.
Instead of, because in 5e, my biggest complaint is like everybody's just playing it like they're playing Dominion or something, and you have to wait till they're done with their turn, snapping their cards down before you can even start. And nobody ever thinks about their turn until they're like, it's like going through the drive-through at McDonald's. And it's like, you know the menu, you know what your character can do, and then you get there in the moment, you're like, oh, you stare at the menu.
Exactly.
I like initiative by side because you got to work together and you can come up with stuff that you might not come up with if you're just thinking about yourself each time.
Yeah, I mean, we also we do a little thing I haven't seen a lot of people do, but it's we call it making a playbook. So the players will, if they're hanging out in the Discord or they're on their free time or they do something in combat that worked really well, one of the players, usually the caller or Mugen who plays Sagar if he's in the game at the time, they'll write down exactly what they did and then they'll give it a name. And so like we had one where it was send to the like two of the magic users up front to do like burning hands in a hallway or something. They wrote that down and they're like, okay, well, just fire hand. We're going to run fire hand. And then the caller can just look at me and say exactly what's happening from all the players at the table at once. And it's kind of like planning out football plays, if anybody likes football. But
well, I mean, but if you've got 20 people, you need a caller. I feel like it's a double-edged sword though, because depending on how long it takes people to communicate with the caller, and then like especially if you're doing a dungeon delve or something like that, there can be a long time where the players are just kind of sitting there watching the caller and the DM go back and forth. Have you noticed that at your games?
Sometimes. A lot of times, though, the caller will sit there, and a lot of my callers that, or at least the guys that usually raise their hand, they want to be caller for the session. They're pretty good about if things are pretty quiet and it looks like I'm able to track what's going on, they'll just kind of sit back and be quiet, or they'll just say what their character's doing. Okay. They kind of step in though when everybody starts talking at once, and they go, "Hold on, guys." Yeah, they're like, "Hold on, guys. What are you doing again?" And then they'll look at me and they'll be like, "Here's what we're doing." So that's just a matter of having good players. So we also use a mapper in game. I very rarely put a dungeon on the table. We do put brown paper all over our table and draw out the region map because we run it as a war game too. So the regions that I draw out on the brown paper are supposed to be what's inside that 5-mile hex that they're in.
Okay.
And then when we're in a dungeon, though, I put, I don't know if you've ever seen Dungeon Craft's YouTube video, the Professor Dungeon Master, but he's got the
universal terrain, the big disc. Yeah.
So we throw those out there, and I only use it to have them put their miniatures in marching order in dungeons.
Okay.
So I'll pass the disc over to the caller, and I'll say, put yourselves in marching order while everybody's talking. And then I will have it on a lazy Susan and turn it north, south, east, and west.
Oh, cool.
And then the rest of it, I just sort of narrate as they're going through, like, okay, 10, 20, 30, doorway, whatever. And it seems to work pretty good at our table.
Do you bust out like the Jenga blocks if they're in a specific room fight and let them do it on the terrain?
I do, yes. I bring Jenga blocks to every session. And when we do war games, I use the old Risk pieces for the little
nice
block. But yeah, it kind of depends. Occasionally, like if the players are getting confused on what's going on, I will throw some minis down and some Jenga blocks and be like, "This is more accurate. Y'all can now start. Here's a ruler." But we don't use a grid though. We either use a ruler or we use the Ultimate Dungeon Terrain.
Okay.
Cool. If we're playing online, we do use like Owlbear VTT, but I just have the Ultimate Dungeon Terrain thrown on there.
Nice.
And if I need to explain a room, then I'll just draw on it like it's a whiteboard. But
Patty has a question. Patty's Parlor asks, I would like to know how bros and non-bros are receiving this game, and how does that differ from those who don't suffer terminally online?
Yeah, I mean,
do you have an idea who's buying this and who's playing it, or is it just kind of like going out there?
I do have an idea. So, a couple of the bros have bought it so far, and I've gotten some good feedback from them. And then I've also had folks that bought it who I don't think I would consider bro SR, and they seem to have liked it too. I've definitely, like I said earlier, the guy that reviewed it, I'm actually pretty good friends with him now after receiving that review and having a couple conversations with him over the phone. But, you know, that was sort of the first negative feedback I got. But really, it was more of a critique. And then after we talked, everything was great. But as far as players at my local game store, most of them have only ever played 5th edition, or they played 5th edition and Pathfinder before. My core players, they're used to being thrown through different systems at this point. But and then a few of the guys have never played anything. So they would like play Magic the Gathering in the store or whatever. So far, it's been really good for them. I do think I've got 1 or 2 holdouts that they can feel that it's different from 5th edition. And I don't know if I've convinced them that it's better, but I've at least convinced them that it's fun enough for them to show up every month.
Yeah.
So, they're still playing both systems right now. At least a few of them are. And like I said, our age range is like 14 to 60. So
nice.
It works pretty good.
I feel like 5th edition can be made to be played more along the lines of the old school way, right? Like back in the day, there was 5 torches deep, and there was 5e hard mode was the one Hanker and Fernell came out with.
Yeah, that's a good
and one. Then if I don't know how long you've been, it says you said you've only been on Twitter recently, but Crossface Killa he was running 5th edition for high schoolers or junior hires. Maybe it was junior hires.
I think was it on YouTube? Because I think I might have seen that.
Yeah, he put some stuff on YouTube, but he was really going into the parts of the DMG that nobody reads and saying, you know, some of the old ways are in here. They're just listed as optional rules. Yep. And so he was showing people how. So like it's not like 5e precludes you from playing this way, but I do feel like, especially if you read it and play it the way the manuals tell you to, that 5e really pushes you into this idea that the DM is the one who owns the story, and that the players are just trying to get the DM to release little bits of plot at a time so they can all, you know, applaud how brilliant, what a good writer the DM is. And I feel like the kind of stuff you and I are talking about, the kind of stuff that lights us up, it's so jarring to some of the people when they first hit it, that like the baseline assumptions are way off, and they think, how can this be good? Because it flies in the face of everything that I've been taught as far as how to think about this from the manuals that I read, if I actually bothered to read them.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. It's been a long time since I've looked at the 5th edition manuals, but I can't just outright say it's a bad game, because we did have fun with it in high school, you know. And you got to remember, some of those things are optional. Feats are an optional rule.
So is flanking.
So is flanking. Yeah. You could play 5th edition and just roll up the stats, and you're kind of playing basic D&D if you don't look at anything else, you know? But yeah, it definitely got to the point where I knew something was wrong with the system when I was like, must have been late high school, but I was like watching acting videos on YouTube, because I'm like, then something's not working in the game, and I'm like, so I must just not be good enough at telling.
I need to do it more like Critical Role does.
Yeah, it's like you know, and it's obvious that I knew something was missing, but I didn't know what was missing. And it's not that something was missing, it's just that there was too much.
Yeah, there was too much stuff that doesn't add, and there wasn't the bits that, like, you've played in the Braunstein. Braunstein. You know what it's like to hope you can trust the people around you, but not quite know.
Yeah.
Right? You will never get that feeling from 5th edition.
Yeah, no.
But if you're playing a 1E game and you got a thief in the party like Slippery Pete, we were walking into a dungeon. We get into this room that's just full of steam and clouds, and nobody can see anything. And we come out, and I had a wizard named Bumblebore. His pouch was lighter, and all of the jewels that we just found, all the rubies and stuff, had just disappeared. And Sever was my buddy Brigadine was playing a ranger named Sever, and he laid hands on Slippery Pete's player's character, who wasn't playing Slippery Pete, right? But Slippery Pete has a hat of disguise, so you can never be sure. And he was just a wizard, but no, everyone thought it was the thief in disguise. That moment of, can I trust the people in my party or not, is so hilarious.
It really is. I've had plenty of moments like that, especially with our group being so large. A lot of players can get away with stuff, and nobody really knows what's happening. They might have told maybe the caller, and I don't find out till later in the session that something happened. And like when I'm when I'm teaching players that want to be referees how to referee, the first thing I tell them is like, you're not a dungeon master. We're not using that term, because and I say, you're not here to tell a story, and your only purpose here is if they need you to mitigate something in the game.
Yeah,
because you could do an entire session of the game and the referee only speaks a couple times. I mean, obviously if you're in a dungeon, you got to tell them where they are. But if they're in like a city, or if they're just wilderness exploring, and I've got the outdoor survival board down, a lot of them just do it, and I'm just kind of hanging out with them. They know what they need to roll. They know how much they can move in a round, or in a day turn,
So how does it go over when you tell them that? When you say, all right, this is what the job takes? Because in one way, they might feel like, oh, that's not how I play. That can't be satisfying. But in another, I feel like the way that they're taught to play is overwhelming.
Yeah.
You've got to create the world. You've got to simulate it to, make it realistic. Your dungeons need to have ecology. You need to be a PhD in several disciplines before you can create this. And I feel like there's like this weird idea that we all get, that there's some imaginary audience out there that's watching the movie and saying, who hired the continuity artist? That wasn't the same. Look, his glass was half full in this shot, and then the next one it was empty. And it's like, there is no audience but the players. Right. And you don't want to junk up your head with a bunch of extraneous detail that's going to take you away from the moment where you see them get excited about something and you can pounce on it.
I rarely prep anything for my sessions. The most I'll do is, if I know that they're going to a specific location or dungeon, I'll make sure I know what's in the dungeon. But otherwise, I'm not waiting for any moments to happen. I'm not.
Because if you're setting up these set pieces and stuff in the dungeon, and they're like, "Hey, we want to go to the other town over and find someone to train us," and you're like, "Okay, well, that's what we're doing instead."
Exactly.
Much better just be like,
times.
yeah, and it should happen.
Yeah.
The DM, I feel like the conventional style 5e DM is constantly being pulled between what the players actually want to do and the story that they're hoping to give the players. It's almost like they feel like they're the director of an episode of D&D the show, and you want to make sure everyone got to see the same episode. Like, we bought Curse of Strahd. I want you to have the Curse of Strahd experience because it's the best. And whenever the players want to do the only thing that RPGs do that no other medium can, which is have total autonomy, you're like, well, I want to fool them into thinking they have that, but they're really doing the thing I'm trying to do. And like, that tension is what I feel like ruins it for a lot of DMs. And that's when they're like, I've outgrown this. I no longer have the time. All of my friends are married and we don't have time to play together. My deacon at church, I need it to be easier and I need it to be more fun. It can't be this much work and a drag. Life's too short for mediocre D&D.
I would probably only have an hour to prep most sessions anyway, because I don't schedule them. I schedule the once a month game because that's an event that I run, and it's still all in the same campaign. But otherwise, the players form parties and they hit me up and they say, "Hey, can you run a game tonight? Or can you run a game tomorrow?" They were just in the chat earlier talking about it, and I was sitting over there going, okay, I'm just gonna put my phone down and wait for them to pick a day so I can stop moving my schedule around. But the so like sometimes I won't find out that we're running a game until an hour before, where they're like, do you have any time tonight? Please can we run something? I'm like, oh, I guess I'm free. So
yeah.
And they tell me, we kind of have a format with it too. I'm like, tell me when you want to play, who you're playing, and where you're going, and then we just do that. A lot of times though, if they don't know what they want to do, we'll just plop the outdoor survival board down, and I'll say, you guys were here, where do you want to go now?
Yeah.
And they'll just randomly move across the map.
I feel like it's almost like we're different denominations. We will use the same language and mean something entirely different by it. You say campaign, and I'm tracking. When you say campaign, I'm thinking the campaign is the world.
Yeah.
Players come and go, but they are not. The spotlight isn't on the Get Along Gang. The 5th edition tradition. I keep saying traditional. It's conventional is the word I want. To them, the campaign is like the cast of Star Trek. It's like the 5 or 6 crew members that go everywhere and do everything.
Yeah.
And if you say, I'm keeping the campaign going with several different players, their mind just goes, how can that possibly be? You got 30 people playing, different groups on different nights. How can that be a campaign? It's because the campaign isn't the players. We're using the same words, but like our base assumptions are so different. And that's why I'm interested in how do you get Neo out of the Matrix? How do you take that fuzzy brown caterpillar and make a butterfly out of it by bringing him to the good stuff, the sauce?
It helps a lot when you've got players that don't know what that word means anyway. So then when you do get players, though, that are from 5th edition, like I just kind of tell them that this is a different game. I'll say, well, yeah, 5th edition's its own thing, but this is what a campaign means here. There was one thing, I put it in my, where is it at? All right, Matt Finch's A Quick Guide to Old School Gaming.
Oh, yeah, the primer.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one that I hand out to the players. And then, who is it? Griff's YouTube channel too. It's pretty good. The Informal Game. I have especially like my new referees, I'll have them watch some of the videos on like making a dungeon and stuff like that. Or if a player's like, hey, I want to map this session tonight, I might send them that video and be like, hey, you don't have to watch this, but it'll help.
Yeah.
It's sort of retraining that part of your brain. It's like having to learn a bike, but now it's got one wheel, It's a unicycle.
I feel like Bradford made some interesting points up here. He said, talking about my little rant earlier, he said they think it's a movie and their movie has terrible music, i.e. none. And he says, Dunder Moose explains why conventional play is better done by video games. And if it sounded like that's what I was saying, I got that idea from Bradford Walker, because he has written at length on this. You guys should all be on his blog if you're not already, a Substack. Walker's Lakeside Retreat. But and then he had one more banger down here. He says, people used to conventional play think the game is about them. It's not. It's about the world. They're just in it. And the point about video games is, I think that's the mentality that people have when they try to play the RPG like a video game. And it's like the DM is going to be the CPU that's running all the subroutines that keep the animals moving around and keep the ecology. And it's like, no, Bradford's right. Video games are way better at that than what we're trying to do. If we try to play that game, we lose. Because we cannot compete with a PlayStation on that type of game.
I play video games with my players sometimes too, because sometimes
I love video games.
So
I feel like Baldur's Gate 3 is just as good, if not better, than playing legit 5e. Yeah. The thing I like that real D&D does, and sorry, that's a Bro SR thing. I'm going to do that from time to time. Actual real D&D offers you an experience that no computer can match, because you have the ability to do something that hasn't been pre-programmed for you to be able to do.
Yeah. And I mean, there are some, like if we're doing a one-shot session of Mothership or something, like The Haunting of Ipsilon 14.
Yeah.
It's, you don't have to think about it as a story, but it's much smaller scale. So you can go, okay, well, it says here, when the players enter the room, this happens. And that can make some story moments, but I tell the players that the story is what y'all did, and we're talking about it after.
Yeah.
You know,
And
if there is a
I
story,
played
it's
that
us
game.
talking about what happened.
I played
So,
Ypsilon 14 or whatever, and in mine, one of my players thought that he was gonna out. He picked up early that water was bad news for these infected people, and he just they had just landed. He just charges into the mess and he tries to dump a bucket of water on one of the guys, and all of the people that were eating breakfast there, all the workers, they just pinned him up against the wall and started stabbing him in the guts with a knife because it was like they don't know what he's doing or why he's there. They're all on edge, and that's not on the pamphlet. That's just
yeah.
when you do
Well,
like a place. If you have a place and you have different factions that have goals, then the crazy can happen, and you don't have to write down what's going to happen because the crazy
exactly.
is going to happen.
I
Your
have
trumpet has been struck by lightning. Thank you for the $3 reduced super sticker. You're such a good supporter, man. I appreciate you. Go ahead. I didn't mean to step on your line. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I have a funny story with the Haunting of Ypsilon 14. So my players were in there, and I did give them secret goals while they were in there and stuff. And because get a little bit of that style of play. I was like, okay, let's see. And my fiance was like, I want to be an android. And I'm like, okay. So she rolls up a character, and I go, here's your secret goal. And I handed her a little piece of paper that said, you're trying to get a sample of whatever this is and get out with it. Yeah. And so she's like, okay, well, I'm going to go full like the bad android from the Alien movie. And so she plays along with the party the whole time. She saves their lives. All this stuff's going on. And none of this is planned at all. She gets down to the last moment. And one of the places running to get on the ship, she has the sample that she ate. All right. And she goes and she locks the door so he can't get on and flies off with the ship.
Man.
And there's a moment where he looks at her and he's like, my character's banging on the door. Like, let me in. She goes, I'm afraid I can't do that, John. Like how? And she flies off and, does the whole like alien thing. She pulls the sample out of her mouth, puts it in the tray and goes, all right, I'm on my way. And everybody was freaking out. They were like, that was awesome. And we tell stories about it, but that wasn't the plan going into it. The plan was we're going to play a game.
Does the Mothership Guide tell you to make extra goals like that for the players, or was that something was that a Braunstein thing?
This was before I played Braunstein, so I have a feeling that it does mention it somewhere in the Warden's Guide, but I can't really remember. I just know that wherever I got that idea from, it was a good idea because it's being fun.
Because Scudder Mike did the same thing for us in our game. He set us all up with secret, and like as we play, we start realizing that the other people have other stuff going on, and that makes it even more tense. And
also, like when your players are involved in that whole process too, because when it's just you thinking, oh, I've got this secret thing I'm going to pop out middle of the session or whatever, then it is just sort of you're telling a story and you're hoping for the moment to happen. But if you go in and you're like, well, you want this or you want this, or, I kind of involve my players in the world building process too. Cause so in our campaign world, I said, none of you guys can play as orcs. Orcs are evil monsters. Evil cannot create, it can only corrupt. So these are just mutated humans that the Sorcerer King has created into these pig looking dudes. And then I had a player come to me, he's like, I really want to be an orc. I'm like, dude, we're not doing the whole furry 5e thing. And he goes, no. He said,
we're not doing the mascot convention coming to town, right?
but he looked at me, he said, no, you don't understand. I'm not trying to do that. He said, you mentioned that the orcs used to be human. So what if my dude didn't, he's like half baked or something. And I'm like, okay. So I let him
out of the easy bake orc oven too soon.
Exactly. Yeah. He was only half into the flesh pit and the rest of him was out.
He's a bit doughy.
But one thing led to another, and I'm like, sure, whatever. And now he's like slowly going around building his own orc army. And now he's planning on launching troops against the keep on the Borderlands. But through all this too, and now I'm like, okay, now because the gears are turning of this, it's not that story is being created, it's that certain events have to happen because certain things have happened. Like, well, okay, of course the Sorcerer King's not going to like this, so he's going to go send forces to go stop you because he doesn't like the idea of orcs being on their own. But yeah, no, that's also why there are no orcs as player races in Barrows and Borderlands. Orcs and goblins, they're evil. Don't let players play them.
Yeah, and elves as well. Don't suffer the knife ears to live.
I don't have elves in my game. So.
Right on. Crafty Matt's announced just said, just in case you want to know, I was playing X Dude in SF6 and beat him 30-1.
There you go.
Wow, 30-1. X Dude's a good guy, man. That's some good sportsmanship. And he bullied Polly into attending an in-person tournament. Never trust an elf.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Well, man, we have so much in common. On the one hand, I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's good that I started playing this other way, this Broasar method, these techniques we've been talking about, because I don't want to be a snob. I don't want to be off-putting, but I go back and play with people in these other campaigns, and it's just not the same. It just doesn't hit the same way.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel a lot when it comes to D&D style games. Granted, one of my buddies, he likes to run Call of Cthulhu and Delta Green. Hop in, I'll have just so much fun. And we're not doing 1-to-1 with those games because it just probably wouldn't work in a Call of Cthulhu. Well, now I might.
It might. I've heard people, and I was actually in one where they were looking at doing a Masks of Nyarlathotep 1-to-1. You need a lot of people. You would need a lot of people, and you'd need to. But everyone would need to be on board because that's a big module.
But you look at some like Delta Green's Impossible Landscape. That would be pretty hard to try in 1-to-1 with like a 30-year time span that it's all happening. Yeah. But I kind of see those like when people are hopping on to play a video game. It's like, well, we're doing something completely different tonight. Mm-hmm. Do I want to play that every time we get together to game? No, because I like the way I play with my friends. But yeah, we throw all kinds of stuff in there. Like we use the dungeon board game in our main campaign as a solo dungeon. So, or group dungeon if they need to. But if we're waiting for players to show up, or one or two of the players is over and we're not really in the mood to play a campaign, we'll say, okay, well, your character is most like the hero, or your character is most like the magic user, and so we'll go through the dungeon like that, and I'll say you can keep the treasure you find.
Right on.
Silver for gold though in Barrows and Borderlands, but
Okay. Well, you also were, before we came on, you told me another way that your players can earn XP in the game, right?
Yeah, come over and help me make box sets. So, how
much XP can you earn per box set that you help put together?
Enough.
Enough. Right.
Enough. We also another way we do XP is if they read Weird Tales magazine, or they read Conan or Fafnir Grey Mouse, any of those stories that I have up in our inspiration tab. For every short story you read, I give them like 200 XP, and dude, that way they know what the inspiration is.
I so identify with that. When we were playing in Trilopulus, there was one of Jeffro's face-to-face players had joined the game, and his character had gotten arrested due to some just absolutely bonkers pre-Broasar, like proto patron / Braunstein hijinks that I was fortunate to take part in. And he was like, how do I get my guy out of jail? And B-dubs, hashtag thank you B-dubs, his player Chaz the Elf was like, I will come rescue you, but first you need to give me a book report on the Queen of Elfland's daughter. You got to read some Lord Dunsany, or you got to read The Broken Sword. You've got to read about what real elves are like, and give me a book report, and then I'll help you. So
that's funny.
My
players
for appendix in is brilliant. I love it.
Well, I love stealing stuff too from like Fafnir Grey Mouse. I threw the Thieves' House in our world for them to run into.
Dude, you and I were talking about this. I got this. This was the only Fafnir and the Grey Mouser at Barnes and Noble, and I was lamenting the chapter called "The Snow Women"
Yeah,
which is just it's just a slog. It feels
those bitter
terrible.
ladies. He spends like 3 pages talking about how they throw snowballs. Yeah. It's a hard one to get through.
It's like if Zardoz happened above the Arctic Circle and there wasn't any cool tech.
Just stick with it though, because after that first, the Snow Women and the second story, I can't remember the name of, but it focuses
the second
on the
one
Mauser.
it's the Gray Mauser before he
was
the Unholy Grail.
Yes, and then
I'm tempted to just skip straight to Ilmet and Lankmar.
No, don't do that. It's worth it.
From what I understand, this was the first like legit story, and the other two were like the magician's nephew and a horse and his boy, and they got put ahead of the good stuff.
They were tagged in there, but I will, at least from when I read it, I enjoyed that I had read those two first before hopping into the rest of it. Granted, with Fafhrd and Grey Mauser, you could start with the fourth book, third story, and you would be just fine.
All right.
Like you could.
I will pinch my nose and I will drink it down. But I'm really good at picking the wrong first story. I got into A Merit with the Moon Pools, and everyone's like, "Oh, that one, oh, that's not the best Merit. Maybe do something else first."
Well, it's I'm trying to think. It's not serialized, but what's the word? It's the stories aren't connected, so you could they're just the same characters. So you could start with a random one, and he always starts them with like, here's Fafhrd, this tall guy with red hair, and here's Grey Mauser, the small guy with mouse skin, gray clothes. Mm-hmm. So it takes him all of like 5 sentences to tell you who's in the story, and then get into it.
And then you're into it.
Exactly. Now I know Fritz Lieber did not create Fafhrd and Grey Mauser, the characters. So
really,
yeah, they were. What was that writer's name? Somebody down there probably knows, but
yeah, type in the chat if you know who created the characters.
They were made, and Fritz Lieber assumed that he was more like Fafhrd, and then the guy that wrote it was more like Grey Mauser. And that guy, Fritz Lieber, basically adopted those characters and was writing stories for them. Eventually, he finished that writer's. It was the one about the witch in the tent. But he finished that story based on his notes. Yeah, what you talking about, Willis?
Actually, what you talking about, Willis?
Let me see if I can find it.
Hey, I will give 500 XP to whoever can find the original creator of Fafhrd and the Grey Mauser and put it in the chat.
Harry Fisher. Harry Fisher.
Harry Fisher. Okay.
Yeah.
R-Dubs is close. R-Dub said Harry Otto.
Close. Harry Otto Fisher.
Harry Otto Fisher. Okay. 500 points to each of you.
Yeah. I didn't know that for a while either. But that whole group of friends, especially like the Weird Tales magazine group, it's like they're kind of doing the same thing that I like to say my players and I are doing, where we're like, oh yeah, like with Sagar, his character, and then all the players start making up stories about him.
His middle name is Otto. Fools. You very great fools.
Yes. You should read some of his stuff too. But if you make it through the first book, Swords and Deviltry is the thickest, longest stories, but then the rest of them are the real style. But I think
I'll stick with it.
Yeah, they mix up the order. I think one of the oldest stories is actually in the third book. So,
okay.
But yeah, I think he put them together in the 70s to make it was supposed to be chronological to the characters. But yeah.
You ain't getting our dubs on no plane. That milk is good.
I love the comments over here. Every time we're in the middle of talking, I'll look over and see something hilarious.
Oh, dude, I don't know how I ever do a show like this. My chat is just so crazy, and I'm distractible enough as it is. You guys know this about me. You're weaponizing my ADD. Well, you're a good sport for coming on and putting up with all the crazy, man.
No, I love it. You should come to one of my sessions. That's real craziness. But
heck yeah, I would love to.
If you ever find yourself in Charleston,
we are going to be playing together in Jay Letourneau's. What night is it? June. It's a 20-something.
Something or another. I think it's the 21st, maybe.
Josh is half these people here with the sole purpose to distract Dunder. That's the real game, isn't it? Throwing me off of my game.
Hailsteins are 21st.
So the 21st, we're playing Hailsteinser, and hopefully you'd be willing to come back. You know, I love to do me a good post Braunstein after action report. So
yes.
Get as many as we can.
Yeah, I'm not used to streaming and talking on stream, but this has been a good. I've seen your channel before though, so it was kind of like, oh cool,
little me,
little you. No, I had seen your stuff. I think I'd watched some of your videos earlier on too, before we were even playing this campaign. That I was like,
yeah,
okay, well, let me look up stuff. And you search the word Braunstein, and y'all come up. So
right on. Yeah, there's a bit of controversy. If you look at my X, it says don't call it a well, I'd say phonetically, Braunstein is a different word than Braunstein. I do not want to take anything away from Wesley and what he created. I thought that he might be chuffed to know that people were honoring him with the use of the word because the mechanics are similar, but I did find out, not directly, mind you, but from others, that he was not. He's like, this is my thing. I don't know if he knows what we do. I don't know how aware he is. None of the ones that I've played in a bunch of these, and none of them have been in Prussia. I've never played original. I am hoping to get to Arnicon this year and play in my first.
I'll be there.
All right, man. That's when we can hang out. Because I missed the last one because my daughter was in marching band. But Hardub says I want to take everything away from me.
Oh no, I was talking to somebody about this, but I was like,
so extra.
When it comes to that kind of stuff, I'm very much so like fingers in the ears, because I had a lot of fun playing with Wesley, and then I have also had a lot of fun playing with some of the folks that aren't on the same mental,
all right.
So
here's what I came to, right? Because I'm caught in the middle. I'm friends with both. My heart belongs to the Bro SR because they lifted me out of where I was and taught me how to play. But I get along with Griff, and he gets along with me, but he doesn't get along with my friends, and my friends don't get along with him, and that's fine. And it is not my job to make sure that they like or get along with each other. It is up to them to be who they want to be, and I'm not going to change them. I just feel like I learn from both.
Yeah, and I want to game with both. I just like playing. I just want to
have fun with them. I agree with the Bro SR, but I do not want to get in fights over something that I already know has been decided over and over again, rehashed and whatever. I do have this glorious vision of a bright future where the Bro SR and the Blackmore Bunch link arms and march off into the horizon together. I am an optimist.
Well, especially because I know a few of the Bro SR that I've made friends with, and I'm like, okay, I'd love to game with them. And then obviously I'm friends with Griff, and I've played in his game, and it's a lot of fun. He's a good referee, and he's a good guy. He was one of the first ones to share my game around.
Yeah,
and
he supports indie creators for sure.
Yeah, and then Wesley, like, dude, I've probably had longer conversations with him than I have my grandpa. Like at the convention, man. I have never met somebody at his age like he went till 4 a.m. one night.
Wow.
We were hanging out in the lobby talking.
Was it 50-50 or were you doing most of the listening?
Well, I can talk a lot. So I was trying to, but we were down there. I think the first night we were there with Griff, and we were talking like Civil War stuff. And I piqued his interest because I'm like, well, I'm in Charleston,
Yeah.
Fort Sumter's right over there. And started talking about that. And then like night 3 of getting like 4 hours of sleep, and he looks like he could run a mile. I'm like, how is he still awake? I don't know what I'm like, because I was waking up early for the games and then staying up late with Wesley, and I'm just, dude, I didn't get any sleep during DaveCon. I probably won't get any sleep during Arnicon either.
Yeah. Chubby says the great thing about internet conflicts is that they can wreck your mental stability while delivering no practical benefits. And Brian Reninger, Mr. Fluid the Druid himself, says the thing with Griff is he's not wrong. Yet he's not right. Here's what I come to with it, man. War gamers are gonna war game, and they love arguing and counter signaling. And I am in a fortunate position, being a Johnny come lately know nothing, that I can learn from both. And I don't know how I've gone. Usually, someone in my position winds up angering both sides and being rejected by all. But I've just been like, I'm going to let them be who they are. I'm not going to try to make peace. I'm just going to show up, have fun, learn what I can. But yeah, well, but I am, at the end of the day, I'm ride or die Browsar. So
I try to stay willfully ignorant of the dramas. So, because, you know, I feel like
our dubs is hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure you feel similar. It's like you want, like you said earlier, you want to play with both. And so as long as I don't know what's going on, then I can't pick a side. So
that's right.
When my players are arguing, I just look at them and I go, I don't care which one of you is doing it. You know, we're done. Either kill each other in game or we can move on. But
speaking of which, Mr. J. Letourneau himself with $10. Thank you, sir, for the support. He says, I'm traveling home, so I'll have to watch the VOD, but I can't wait to hang with you guys on Saturday for Hailsteinzer. Also, Matt's game is really rad. Thanks, Jay. Awesome. Appreciate it, man. I cannot wait to play with you.
I'm excited. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I was reading through the primer, and I'm excited. So the poster threw me off. I was like, okay, I guess we're doing Hollywood. And then I read the primer. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not what I thought it was. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
The poster is apt though, because it's like a who's who.
Yeah.
In this Stein, he opened it to everyone. He opened it to Griff. Griff's like, I don't know if that's my jam, and that's fine. R-Dubs says we're swimming, Moose. R-Dubs has a habit of, well, I guess R-Dubs, we should be even. I killed you on Moonstein, but you killed me in the pond there.
I think I might have the highest casualty so far. We'll see if I can keep that track record.
Yeah, man. I'm terrified to play in the game with you.
Well, so you said you're a war gamer too. I guess I have a question for you then.
Okay.
Do you play much chainmail or other war games, or do you have a favorite?
I need to learn chainmail. And R-Dubs and who else was R-Dubs that you guys took me in and were teaching me? Was Steven there? And there was one other guy. Man, I can't believe my brain is blanking. They took me into a tabletop simulator game of chainmail.
Oh,
and so it was fun. So I got some units, and because you can read chainmail.
Yeah.
But there are things that don't become apparent until Captain Hook. Thanks, R-Dubs.
I do feel like you have to play it or watch somebody play it to really know what's going on.
Yeah, you got to play it, and you got to hit those weird edge cases where you've got to figure out, okay, what is the intent of the rules when this scenario comes up? And so for me, that was awesome playing with some guys who absolutely knew what they were doing. I don't know if anyone has played as much chainmail as the bros. Alchemic Raker,
we play like we play like 2 to 3 times a month with our group. They can't help themselves. We did Village of Hamlet, right? And we were doing this I threw the module in there, and the players were heading to that side of the map. I'm like, okay, cool. There's this evil player, Noel, I can't remember the exact name. And I'm like, okay, so they're interested in it. They're about to head over there. They're getting their gear together. I'm like, okay, we might have like a undercover in this evil village.
Yeah.
And then they go, we're gonna go stop by the mercenaries and hire as many as we can, and we're conquering that evil village because we hate them. Next thing I know, we're running a chainmail with Village of Hamlet.
So do you do minis? Like do you do like the Mr. Wargaming 15 millimeter minis, or do you use your risk pieces? Or
I use risk pieces. I have a few that I've printed out on a 3D printer and painted up, but I'm cheap when it comes to my war games. We use risk pieces, either the old ones that are the cubes, but then for cavalry, I use the newer plastic ones that are on horses. And then for because I also use a little bit of what's it called? Gunpowder and stuff for our world.
Yeah.
So those other little risk pieces that have guns on them, we throw them
muskets. Okay, perfect.
We also do a little bit of Strategos in for some things. But
you have a copy of Strategos N.
I do have a copy, but
That
it's pretty fun.
Did you buy that at Arnicon or DaveCon?
Oh yeah. That was like.
Do you think they're going to be selling it at Arnicon? Because I would love to get my grubby little paws on that.
I hope he is. Dave had it at his table during the Braunstein game, so I kept getting worried because I'm like, I haven't seen it in the vendors hall. I didn't see it at the other thing. I'm like, is he actually selling this here? I heard somebody say he was. And then we show up to the Braunstein game, and he's got him sitting on the table. And the first thing I did when I walked in there is I went, money, thank you.
Yeah.
So
Wesley's there in a trench coat, and he's like, hey, you want to buy a game?
Exactly. That's what it felt like, because I needed to. I had a bug attack me.
No worries, man. Fluid says we need to write Chainmail 4th edition, title Full Plate. I love it. No, I just saw a little glimpse of a hardcover there. Yes, what was that little teaser?
The Dynaco edition.
Ooh, the what?
So
Dynaco?
The Dynaco. So this is, as you can see, I just had to send them another little file to fix my title there. But this is going to be for those folks that don't want the box set, that want all of it in one. So
hardcover.
Yes, I guess the bug was trying to help me show off this copy of the game.
I bite him in the ribs. He'll have to fling this thing on camera.
But this is the same game as what's in the booklets, but hardback, and it'll be print on demand with drive-through. So for the folks that don't want to do the box set, they can do it that way. I ran into a few things with a couple international guys that wanted the game, like Fox that was in the chat here, and I was like, I made sure that they got a copy, but with shipping and everything, it's like, okay, maybe print on demand is much easier when it comes to international gamers. So yeah, that's where that came from. And then the supplements too, I'm going to be eventually, once I finish writing all of them and stuff like that, I might do like an omnibus of the game or something.
Cool.
But it depends. My favorite way is with the little box set, because I like laying all 4 booklets out on the table.
Yeah. Well, and there's just, the wood grain is just Kino, man.
I couldn't help myself but make my own copy of this. So I'm like, I have all the materials, so yeah, these are my recreation games, but yeah, our players love it.
I bet they look good next to each other on the shelf.
that they do.
Oh yeah, look at that.
But
so how is it going with the second print run? Do you foresee that you might sell out of that one as well, or is this one going a little slow?
Yeah, no, this one's going much faster than the first one.
Really faster. Okay, so if people want to get in on it, how long do they have before that one's all gone?
Well, you see, I've got some of them behind me, and I've got a couple more boxes of them, but so far it's been like 3 to 10 copies I've been selling a day which is pretty good for. I've released some things in the past before that did not get traction like that, and I guess I'm having a good problem.
There you go.
Why I'm offering XP to my players. Y'all come help me put the books in there. But every set comes with the books, a set of dice, and a few character sheets in the box. And the first print run, all of the boxes were made by hand. I cut the cardboard, wrapped it myself and everything. Yeah. Some of the folks that I only made 40 of those though. So the folks that got them are 1 of 40, but
1 of 40.
The second print run, I did substantially more, but I ordered the boxes themselves pre-made, and then I put the labels on it. Brymar did a pretty good job with those boxes. So
yeah. Chubby says, is the box made out of recycled wood from rabbit hutches?
How'd you know I had rabbits?
Barrows?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I think Griff posted on Dragon's Foot, and we were talking on there. And I think halfway through his review of it or his talk about it, he wrote, I guess it autocorrected to Barrows and Borderlands.
Barrows, okay. That's
immediately was like, can I be a bunny in this game? What's going on? Can I be? I'm like, maybe I should make one as a joke or something, like a 3-page rule for free where everything's a bunny. But I had one of my players that didn't know what a barrow was, and he was like, where's the wheelbarrow come in? And I'm like, okay, bud.
This is a non-wheelbarrow.
Exactly. No, we had some early like writing something substantial like this. My early like copies that I had on the site and stuff, or up on drive-through, there would be like the occasional typo that players would let me know. So like we had on our magic item chart, like the sword, magic sword number 97 just wasn't there, and I had a guy that was texting me. He's like, "Am I missing a sword? What's going on with this?" And he's like, "It's like no. It's just the one before is supposed to be a 2% chance, and but now like in the next supplement, one of the new magic items is the 97th sword." Just to put that in there.
Little Easter egg.
Yeah, we've got funny stuff in there. I think my favorite magic item though is the, where's it here? The divine arm-launched exploding device of great holiness.
What does that do?
Well, it's a holy hand grenade.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Do you have to be particular in how you count it down before you can throw it?
Yes. All of it's right there. You have to follow these steps. Raise the device on high so that it may be clearly visible to both the heavens and one's enemies. You must put milk of the goat born under the waxing moon and bathe thrice in sanctified rainwater. I've got all those little,
Sounds like a lot of downtime to use that thing just to set it up.
Well, and like we put, of course, the magic sword, and one of my favorite bits in original D&D was rolling to see if your sword was intelligent and little minor properties. But I was like, okay, well, for this game, it's got to be swords and guns. So you can wind up with like an intelligent flintlock or something. We have Excaligun as an item in there.
Oh, nice. So,
yeah,
man, that does sound fun.
Given you by the old coot in the river.
Yeah. Like, old coot. Yeah, Sever got an amazing magical sword, and it speaks with the voice of Sean Connery. So its name is Wearsbane, but we all call it Wearsbane.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we had one as Wigweird. Was just the annoying sword of the party because it had full intelligence and could speak all it wanted. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna make this the most annoying sword to use ever. It was like a +2 sword too. So I'm like, well, I can either deal with them having this +2 sword for every fight, or I could just make it so annoying they don't want to pull it out.
They're like, what's that mighty weapon you have? Oh, nothing.
Nah, you don't want to know.
You don't want to see him.
He's shy.
Pull him out if I absolutely need to.
Exactly.
He's got the voice of Eddie Deason.
Yes.
So you said something that just jumped back to me from earlier in our conversation. You were talking about the magic mishaps, like if the chainmail you have to roll, it may get delayed. It may just go off, or it may go something horribly wrong. And this is going to be terrible, and I'm going to feel bad that I shared this inside thought out loud. But I was thinking about this a couple days ago. It struck me. It would be very hard to be like a Hogwarts style magic user in Harry Potter if one had a speech impediment, right?
Oh no, yeah, that would be the
everything is in like the wrist and the the inflection and the syllable. And I thought, what if somebody with a stutter was trying to do a Patronus spell? Like every time they hit the P, they were just charging it up more and more.
There was
expecto, and everyone, like the teachers are all starting to run. It's like, man, he's putting so much into that thing, it's gonna come out like a freight train.
If y'all have ever seen Dungeon Soup's little animated YouTube videos.
Oh, I love those. Yeah,
the Wizard King's Court. That's the first thing I thought of when you're talking about like a speech impediment. It's like I don't know, I can't counter. I don't know what he's saying. Yeah. Baboon Bolt is probably that needs to be in the game.
The other one that killed me was the Paladin and the Unicorn.
Oh yes.
Like making him promise all these things he can't swear, and then the barbarian just jumps on him, slaps it 3 times, and takes off.
Oh yeah, dude. And then was it the same paladin, but it was his lay on hands for the orc that was stealing his girlfriend. Yeah. So good. But yeah, no, the critical miscast and stuff. I put in there that I'm like, if you should kind of make your own for your world, if just make a little D100 table stuff. But here's the one I use at my game. And I've never seen players' hearts drop so much as getting snake eyes on a pair of D6s when they know what's in store. My favorite one is the caster's insides become outsides, but we've got like the caster opens
cucumber.
Oh yeah. The caster opens a portal to Atlantis underwater, so it's just an endless water stream. We've got let's see, cast black hole instead. That's a game ender right there. We had one caster who it had been set up. His character was sick. He had like demon rot in our campaign or whatever. And he's playing this guy. He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go figure out how to fix this. Getting other people sign up for his quest that inevitably kill 3 players for the price of him. But he went through and he was just casting a minor spell. It was like light or something. He rolls snake eyes and then he ages a year. And he's like, what? My character's only got 8 months left to live now. I thought I had a year and 8 months. I thought I was good. And I'm like, well, and now he's close to, because we do 1-to-1 time, he's close to the end. He's got to hurry up on his quest.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was funny. Yeah, he was like, oh, maybe I want to be a lich or something. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Dragon Magazine and check out the lichdom thing that they had in there.
There's got to be a lot of stuff he needs to do to make that jump, though, right? Like, you can't just declare you want it.
It was the moment that he was like, oh, wait, I have to sacrifice a person for this. He was like, him as a player, he's like, I don't know if I could do that, man. Like, I know we're just playing a game. I'm like, well, then don't be a lich. Like, find some other way to save yourself.
For being a little lich.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, right, man. Well, dude, I cannot believe that we've almost been 2 hours together. I've had a ton of fun with this conversation.
Me too.
Anything that you were like, man, I hope he asked me about this, or that like anything that occurred to you, but the conversation moved on and you didn't get a chance to get it out there?
Not that I can think of. I mean, other than, I did. I'll just show it real quick. This is the board I was talking about for those that haven't seen Dungeon Craft's channel. So we threw this together. If you're in here, you're melee. If you're out here, you're ranged. But I just have them put their party order on the board for marching. I know Professor DM does the whole theatrical setup, which is cool, but it just takes too long.
He does like I think he got it from the old Batman TV show where like the set was just like a black stage set and they just have like they'd hang a window and a door to make it was a room and stuff. So
which is a good idea because you're not trying to make everything, you're never going to make them immersed into a bunch of miniatures on the table. So there's no point, but minimalist DMing. But I think that's everything. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for taking some time. Thanks for answering all of the burning questions. Questions about Griff, questions about the Brosar, and why it is and how it is that you play the way that you do. I'm really looking forward to allying with and or betraying you in our upcoming Braunstein.
I'll know within 5 minutes, which I'm doing. So
I'm gonna guess in the first 5 minutes you decide to kill half of the players, but we'll see.
Can't be a one-trick pony. Maybe I gotta be good the whole time.
Right on.
Who knows? But
thank you guys in the chat for being so distracting. Thanks everyone that supported the channel with a super chat. And if you weren't able to be here live, but you're listening to us after the fact, thank you for spending some of your time with us. Please give us some support in the form of a thumbs up if you like this. That way, I don't know about you, but like whenever I'm either my own show or I go on another one, I'm always like going back, did people like it? Was it okay? Was it good? So give us that reassurance, hit the like button. If you like these kind of conversations, you want to hear more, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. This is Dunder Moose. And I didn't even ask you, Matthew, do you have a YouTube channel? Are you throwing out videos on there?
So it doesn't have a lot on it right now. It just has how to make a character for Barrows and Borderlands.
Cool. Throw it in the private chat and I'll put it out in the comments there. And I can also add it to the description after the show.
Let me see.
And last chance for any questions or comments in the peanut gallery.
It's a very easy one. At Barrows and Borderlands.
Chubby Funster says, "May your musket fire faithfully, sir. Godspeed to the Borderlands."
Thank you.
I'm gonna get that YouTube channel out on the comments.
And go get a copy of the game before it runs out.
Yeah, you guys, it is running out, and the players everyone's leveling up. They're gonna get tired of stuffing books in boxes. So
that table had multiple of those towers last week. So
yeah,
y'all go get some.
So get your copy, and hopefully you'll get it in time. Maybe if you're coming to Arnicon, you might get it signed by the author himself.
I will be setting a couple aside for Arnicon. So
cool.
There's another chance there.
Another chance there, but you're going to have to be like he was with Strategos in. You're going to have to get in the room and grab it.
I'll hide it throughout the hotel. That's how I felt looking for Strategos, but
it's like geocaching.
I made it all better when I found it.
The Photon Catcher says, I was one of the first 40. Great quality and content. Lucky man.
Awesome. Glad you like it.
Lucky Photon Catcher. All right, thanks, guys. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good one.